Okay.
So welcome. This is Pathways to Peace Symposium. We have a number of great presentations already happening, and we're a little over halfway through, which is pretty cool. Terry and I have been here for 6.5 hours so far, and we got 5.5 hours to go. But we're having a good time, and we've had some great presentations. Melissa's been here almost the whole time, so thank you, Melissa. So our next presentation is going to be about what is our actual title here? It is, what do you feel when you don't feel peace, or when you're not feeling peaceful? What are you feeling when you're not feeling peaceful? Because obviously we're trying to get toward peace, toward feeling peace and living peace and sharing peace and having peace in our world. So this is going to be with Doc Downing. He is Myron Doc Downing on Facebook or in a lot of places. He got known as Doc, I guess, long time ago, right? I've known him as Doc. I've known Doc for 150 years now, approximately, and we worked together. Give or take a couple. We work together extensively. He is probably my #1 mentor of emotional intelligence, of most of the stuff that I know. And I'm very appreciative of that. He explains things in ways really simple that people go, oh. And that's the biggest subject, or the biggest response I want from people a lot of times when I explain this, they go, oh. Like, oh. And because once you know, you can't not know. You can forget and you can try not to. But anyway, he just explains things beautifully. And so we're going to do a little presentation together. Doc, you talk for a minute, and I'm going to pull up your introduction slide. Ready, go.
Okay. Well, I really got turned on to Matt when I was living in Fresno, California. And I drove up to Sacramento where he was living and went through a workshop that Matt does. And it was called Drikers back then. And now it's called New Directions. And I saw the difference in my own life. I felt the difference in my own life. So I said, hey, how about coming down to Fresno? So for many years, Matt would bring his workshop down to Fresno, and I sat in, I don't know, kind of as a therapist, because I was a therapist in Fresno, and we did workshops and seminars, and then Matt's fit right in there, and we just had a fantastic time. And many of my clients I referred to the group, and they went to Matt's group, and I would vouch for him.
Cool. And one thing I am very excited about is that we stopped doing the workshops in Fresno only because of COVID. That's when I had a class scheduled, and then they said, I don't know if we can do that anymore. And when COVID just started, it was like, you can't, we hug and we are close, and it's a very personal thing. We go into inner child work, and it's hard to do without hugging. In my opinion, that's the way to go. Anyway, we haven't done one for 2.5 years now, because we canceled that last one in 2019. But we have another one scheduled next month. We're going to do it next month, the first time in 2.5 years, and I'm super excited about it. And I give you tons of credit, Doc, for teaching me how to teach, teaching me how this all works, and the concepts and the quotes. Doc has a whole bunch of original quotes that you just read through, and it's like, wow, wow, it just bumps your head. And in my book, I think I quoted Doc about 70 times, something like that, something ridiculous. So we kind of wrote it together, even though we didn't, we kind of did. So anyway, so let's go on, shall we? Let's talk about how this works in a quick presentation that we are going to share with you. I'm going to share it, right, Doc? I'm sharing my Word document, correct?
think the concept we're working on is that you are born a peaceful person.
There you go.
Babies are born at peace. Now they cry, but that's just because they're trying to tell you they're hungry. They can't use language, but they're good at letting you know. But this isn't about anger or rage. So we have babies that are born at peace. Ta ta. Oh, isn't that sweet? But the problem is you're born at peace, but then you go to, in just a few years, you can be angry.
Here's Melissa.
So the question is, how did you make it from a peaceful person to an angry person, or to an anxious person, or a depressed person? Because you weren't born with any of those. So that's the question. How do you do that, and how can you change that? So we're going to look at that. Get my notes over here. What do you feel when you're not at peace? So, we think about peace as a good thing. We want to reach the area of peace. But what do you feel that's stopping you from being there? Because your natural state is to be at peace. That's your natural state. So what are you feeling? Anybody got any ideas? What do you feel when you're not feeling peaceful? You can talk, this is an open forum.
Here we go. Melissa?
Okay, well, let me suggest some things that you
Well,
will
hang on.
feel.
Melissa was just going to say something. Hang on a sec, Doc. Melissa, do you want to go? Oh, no, we can't hear you.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Go.
You can hear me now.
Yes, go. Right on.
So for me, if I'm not at peace, I feel very lost, very disconnected, very disoriented. And honestly, no matter what other word I put in there, that's really what the main part of it is that I feel lost.
Good point. Good point. But you weren't born that way.
Right.
So the question is, how do you get there? Some of you may remember Marvin Gaye. He was a singer. And in fact, he was shot and killed by his father. But he said this: if you cannot find peace within yourself, you will never find it anywhere else. That's Marvin Gaye. Wow. And when you think of that, we often do world peace, but we don't start with where we need to start, which is our own peace. So if you're not at peace, how do you bring it to the world? You think, something happens. You weren't born with, feeling anxious or tight or whatever. You're born kind of a blank slate. There are only two feelings you were born with. One is the fear of falling, and the other is the fear of loud noise. And yet almost all of you have no problem going watching 4th of July fireworks, or watching skydivers. Now, doing skydiving might be a different thing, but people get over the fear of falling and the fear of loud noise. So whatever you're born with, or whatever you learn, you can unlearn. If you want peace, then you got to figure out how you get the other feelings that you have. So how do I get to feel anxious? Well, I look at the future. Anytime you look at the future, you're going to be uptight and tense. So that's a way to do it. And there are two places you're going to have to deal with. One is the left side of the brain. The left side of the brain is interesting. It's like a computer. All you do with the left side of the brain is put information into your brain, and then it comes out here. So what you believe will turn out to be feelings. You feel because you believe something. You're no longer afraid of fireworks because you have changed your meaning of them. You're no longer afraid of falling because you've taken the courses and you've jumped out of a plane and you've gotten over it. Left brain is logical and rational, but like a computer, a part of the problem with the left brain is that if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. Garbage in, garbage out. So you have a belief. If you can't do a job right, don't do it at all. You ever heard that one? Well, how about the other one? If at first you don't succeed, try again. Those are two absolute contradictions. How can you do that? No wonder you're uptight. You not only have false beliefs, you have contradictory beliefs that are driving you nuts. So you're not going to find peace unless you're willing to start looking at your beliefs. Now, we talked very briefly about Matt's page where he fills out the worksheet. This is what happened to me. I was what was it, Matt? You were in the military. Your father was in the military, and he traveled around. You never got to make contact with people or make real long-term relationships. And so as a consequence, you made certain decisions about that. As a result, you ended up feeling, and you assumed that that's the truth. And you started looking for more evidence to prove, see, the world is the way I believe it is. The more you make a conclusion about it, oh, there it is right there, almost. That's in the back of, you said that's the last page in your book, Matt?
Mhm. Correct, yeah. Mhm.
That's the
Meaning,
last.
feeling, behavior.
And I would encourage you, each one of you, to do that. Take it on your own. Fill it out. You know, what happened? What meaning did you put to it? How did you feel? And then you can start looking at changing the meanings. Because if you change the meaning, your feeling will change and your behavior will change. So that's a crucial point in finding peace. This is, as far as I'm concerned, is the peace chart. And if you find peace in yourself, then you can start looking at finding peace in the world. Okay, let's go back to the notes then. The other side is you have a right side of the brain. Here's your left side, logical, rational. It's 1 + 1 = 2. Except when you got miscommunications in there or contradictory information. So 1 no longer equals 1. It's some other number, and it gets all confused. The other side is you have a real interesting part in that your right brain, now this is not literally the left and right brain. This is what we just call it, because the left brain can be in different parts of your brain and the right brain. But the thinking process, the right brain is very different. It's like a Mac and an IBM, two very different kinds of computers. They think differently. You put them together and they will just create havoc because they have different kinds of thinking. The right brain thinks in pictures or flashbacks. The right brain thinks in pictures or flashbacks. So, post-traumatic stress disorder, is that a left brain or a right brain disorder? Well, it's a right brain, because the problem is with the right brain, it thinks in pictures, it doesn't think in logic. So it thinks in a picture, and this picture suddenly is right in front of you. And your body, your mind sees this old picture, and it reacts to the picture as if it was happening again right this moment. This is what's happening at this moment. And so one of my clients had been a gunner in the Vietnam War, and he was in one of the Huey helicopters. And they would fly in and shoot all the bad guys, and then they had to land and load up all the wounded Americans. And he said, so often I'd have to leave people because we couldn't get any more on the helicopter. And I'd tell them, we'll be back, we'll be back. And I knew I was lying, because by the time I got back, the bad guys were there and they would have killed him. It would have been over. So he has these pictures, and he used to sleep in his closet with his rifle curled up. He came to Matt's group, the seminar that Matt does in Sacramento. No, in Fresno, you do it now. And he learned how to replace the picture. Think of it, but if you had this is arithmetic. If you have a -1 plus a +1, what does that equal? 0. It's nothing. So if you have a negative thought or picture, a negative thing, and you put that with a positive. So what we had him do is visualize, and with role playing, we'd have him picture coming back and picking up the people that he had left. And he got such peace. Well, you say it's not true, that didn't happen. Well, of course it didn't happen. But the brain doesn't know the difference. The brain sees the picture. And if it's a positive picture with a negative picture, then it doesn't have the power over you. It's gone. So there, in looking for peace, it's going to require you to do both sides of your brain. Both sides of your brain need to be functioning, both the left side and the right side. Now, many therapies use CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. The problem is that's all left brain. So what they're losing and what they're having trouble doing is dealing with the pictures, the flashbacks, the things that are going wrong. And they don't know how to do that. Well, this is why we came up with CABT, cognitive, affective, behavior modification. CABT. It's similar to CBT, but it deals with the right brain. And we can look at it in terms of right brain therapy and left brain therapy. Right brain therapy involves visualization, role playing. With children, we use mutual storytelling to create pictures that people can do. So if you get to the point where you're feeling overstressed, overdone, overworked, maybe it's time to start looking at both sides of your brain and picturing and creating your own peace. Now, the problem here is that we have a lot of problems that get in the way. And those are, we had a list of them here. Matt, do you have that? Oh, here they are. Fear and anxiety. Those are symptoms, by the way. They are not the problem. They are symptoms. And in therapy, we deal with fear and anxiety. Another symptom we see a lot is anger and rage. Anger and rage. Ooh, that's that picture of that lady screaming. I think she was in rage. Sadness and grief are also pictures or symptoms. They are also symptoms. Guilt is a symptom. You're born without any guilt whatsoever. None whatsoever. So, guilt is a symptom. You created it with your beliefs. Shame, again, a symptom. You weren't born with it. It didn't develop. Depression and powerlessness. These are all symptoms that block us feeling peace. We do not have peace because of these. The idea is to release the emotions. So you can use a combination of cognitive therapy and affective therapy to create change in your life. You can do that. The thing in closing I would like to mention is the idea that once you find peace in yourself and you're not struggling with any of these symptoms, then what you need to do is to find other peaceful souls. Once you find other peaceful souls, you can build peaceful relationships. And at that point, we're ready to reach out on your journey and share peace with others and create world peace. So, any questions or any observations?
Excellent stuff, I have to say. I always had trouble in class because when Doc's talking, I always stop and take notes and take notes and take notes. So that's what I was doing again, again, as usual. But it's some beautiful, it's just the way you explain stuff is super simple and it makes it very possible and doable and changeable and all that. So I really like it. Adding
I do have
the
a book,
affective-
by the way. I do have a book,
Okay.
and you can get it downloaded for free. I mean, it was such a bargain. And what you would do is go to my website, docphd.com, and you can find the link there to either write to me, or you can get the book there. You'll find the link to get the book, and it's there too. Any questions? Any more
I'm putting
questions?
it in the chat. There we go. Melissa, anything?
I
Looks
just,
like you want to.
wow, thank you, Doc Downing. I am blown, my mind is like exploding within itself right now. I have really I never really understood that we really need the two sides in order to reflect within ourselves. It is so insightful for me. And many times, like you even mentioned, like PTSD, many times, like different things have come mentioned to me, like anger and sadness and things like that. But for some reason, because the way you're explaining it, as you were going through those words, guilt hit me. Guilt hit me really hard. And I go back to what I was saying earlier, Matt, is I thought I had all this under control. I thought I dealt with all that crap. I thought I did that. And again and again, it is put in front of me. I really haven't. I've just ignored it or found another way around it, I guess. So I appreciate you, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
By the way, you said you were in Texas? No, that wasn't you,
That
somebody
was
else.
I'm in New
Where
Hampshire.
are you, Melissa?
New
New
Hampshire.
Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Yep.
I'm in Georgetown, Texas.
Nice.
So
And Matt's in
Yeah.
what? You're in
Melissa-
California. So we're all over the world here, and that's a good start.
So I'm putting in the chat, Melissa, about where to get the book. And it's You Set the Price. So you can do it free if you want, or doing a little bit to Doc, however you want to do it. But it's a fantastic book. It's super simple. Like he speaks just like we were talking. He just sums things up just great. So I highly recommend it.
It's called Taking
And
Control
I've
of
got
Your Life.
2 or 3 cases of them in my garage, and we still it's still #1 emotional intelligence book that I recommend to folks. It's really well done. So great stuff, Doc. Thank you as always for years and for now both. We will I will continue to try to get your concepts out into the world, because I think they're world changers personally. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Matt, for having this all together, and sharing this stuff.
You bet.
Hey, Doc, this is Bob Ingram.